Hello trader, welcome back to another weekly forex forecast for the last week of the month and also first week of the month. Coming up NFP as well as monthly and weekly close. So this week is the most important week in the whole month, as we will see that quite a few high impact news coming up along with CAD, USD, AUD as well as JPY. So this week our focus will be on gold, AUDUSD, dollar CAD, JPY pairs and all the USD pairs that you can see, including euro dollar. So in this weekly forex forecast, I'm going to do a complete multi-time frame analysis to see what kind of trading opportunity you may find along the week. Before I progress further with this full analysis, traders, make sure you give a thumbs up and also subscribe to the channel if you haven't done yet. In addition to that, also you can stay connected by joining the Telegram channel. You can find link below this video for more updates, education as well as trade ideas that I am posting every day. So let's begin with first of all DXY. Okay traders, so let's first look at the monthly chart to see overall direction in this market, and then we'll be jumping on the lower time frame to see what kind of trading opportunity you might have, and as DXY will give us directional bias on all the USD pairs, including we can find directional bias on gold as well based on DXY. Now looking at monthly, we can see that this instrument from the monthly perspective, back to back, currently after the 4th month the market has broken this support level and it is in a strong downtrend at the moment. This current monthly candle is closing and we can see that so far significant bearish move. Therefore any pullback to the upside, we can expect further drop in this market. So this is the previous monthly support here and also support here. We can see that the price is approaching that support. We might see the price is retesting this support potentially and expecting again another rejection as it is still in a downtrend. If we look at the weekly chart here to see how the market is doing, now we can see that from the weekly, starting from this swing high here, there is a significant drop with this weekly move, followed by last week we saw a doji formation. Now this doji, if we closely look at it, we can see that it's a whole bearish move followed by this narrow doji where the market is forming series of lower high formation in that area. Now if we look at that, it is still maintaining the downtrending market structure, as in this all those red candle there is one narrow doji. We could see that the price may try to break this high as there is a liquidity in that area, and this is the zone that we might see that this week the price to break and then potentially to drop again as it is in a very strong downtrend. Dropping down to the daily chart here, we can see that the market is still maintaining that downtrending market structure. Starting from here, we see that every move there is a series of lower high and lower low, followed by we can see the price approaching this swing high here, which is also the weekly resistance line. And what I think that this week we might see that as there is an FP as well as the monthly close, we might see deeper pullback to the upside, and that's where you will see a potential break of this swing high. We might see that break, and with that being said, we can expect for the market to potentially break this swing high, and as there is a liquidity, this is the zone that we can expect DXY to break and then potentially to trend back down again to create a new lower low. Now if we look at the intraday time frame here, we can see there was a gap open, the bears tried to break that low. Instead we can see the market now slowly starting to push back to the upside. Here what we can expect is this is the weekly swing high here, expecting for this market to potentially retest that level and then to drop down here. This could be the wave for this upcoming week on DXY. So as soon as we will find suitable entry along this direction, we can look for potential entry opportunity based on price action confirmation. Now based on DXY, let's look at starting with the euro dollar. Let's see what kind of trading opportunity we might have. Looking at the monthly chart on euro dollar, we can see that from the monthly it is just mirroring the DXY as it is currently in a bull market. This is the monthly bullish candlestick pattern where the price has just crossed this monthly high. The price has crossed that high from this monthly strong impulse. This is the monthly bullish engulfer, and with that monthly bullish engulfer, expecting euro dollar to retest and potentially to remain bullish for long-term picture. If we look at the weekly chart here, we can see that from the weekly, this is the weekly impulse, and we can see from here a weekly move followed by this correction, and we can see another move, and this is the last week. There is a doji formation here, and we can see the market is still maintaining series of higher low here from the weekly on euro dollar, expecting for this price to potentially break that low, grab the liquidity, and then to return back again to the upside. So this is the weekly low here, expecting for the price to retest and then potentially to move up again. Now looking at the daily chart here on euro dollar, we can see that from the daily time frame, this is the daily price action where the market was forming series of higher low here, and with that series of higher low formation, we can expect for this price to break that low, and this is where there is a liquidity, and we can expect for the market potentially to return back again from that level to create a new higher high. So we could see that potentially drop here further to this liquidity zone, and as this is an important level of support, expecting break that low and then to return back up again to create a new higher high here. So looking at 4-hour chart here on euro USD, we can see that in this lower time frame, this is where local bearish move from here, a move pullback, another move pullback. So the market was forming series of lower high and lower low here, expecting euro dollar to potentially to retest this support or even potentially break that low. Any of this swing low can give us potential buying opportunity, and what I think that euro dollar initially could see the price to break that low, grabbing the liquidity, and then to potentially to give us buying opportunity for this potential upside on this instrument. So this is the wave that we could see in the upcoming week on euro dollar. Now let's look at GBPUSD. Let's see what kind of trading opportunity we have. Now looking at monthly chart on British pound US dollar, we can see that from the monthly, this is the third month the market is bullish, and this current monthly price action so far has tested this monthly high, and from that monthly resistance we can see the price initially started to drop again for deeper pullback, expecting after initial pullback for the market to potentially to remain bullish to create a new higher high. Now looking at weekly perspective here on GBPUSD, we can see that from the weekly, this is where also the price tested this high from a weekly doji. Now we can see starting with this weekly impulse, the price has tested that high, and from this long week candle from the weekly, expecting for this market potentially to break that low, and then what I think that any break of this low is where we could see the price to grab liquidity and then to bounce back up to fill that long week from the weekly perspective. Now dropping down to the daily chart here, we can see from the daily, this is the daily price action where there is a daily strong impulse followed by this correction here, and what we can expect here for the market potentially to break that low. Here there is a support level, and in this zone here what we could see the market to retest, and where we can expect for the price to retest and then revert back up again to create a new higher high in this market. Looking at 4-hour chart here on British pound US dollar, we can see that in this lower time frame the market, this is where the local bearish trend, expecting for the market to break below further to grab liquidity and then to return back again to create a new higher high. This could be the wave for the upcoming week on GBPUSD. as of like euro dollar and mirror of DXY. Now let's look at NZDUSD to see what kind of trading opportunity we have in this instrument. Looking at monthly chart on NZDUSD, we can see that this instrument bouncing back from a very significant monthly support, which is a historical monthly support. We can see the price tested this support here, and also support here. After penetrating that low, we have seen there is a sharp rejection from the buyers. That's the sign that the market may long term remain bullish, but at the same time we could see that deeper pullback in this instrument on the lower time frame, like the euro dollar and GBPUSD. Now looking at weekly chart here, we can see that from the weekly, this is the weekly price action, where starting with this weekly impulse last week form a narrow pin bar. As the price sharply has got a rejection, we might see any break of this support, and as this is the weekly support here, what we could see that as soon as the market potentially break that low, can expect another rejection to fill that long wick at the top from the weekly chart. Now dropping down to the daily, here we can see that daily price action, it's a sharp bullish impulse, which is a sign that long-term trend is still bullish, and at the same time the market in a sideways movement, expecting it to break that low and then to return back again to create a new higher high here. Now looking at 4-hour chart here on NZDUSD, what we can expect for this market to potentially break that low where liquidity and then to bounce back up. This is where we can expect for GBP and NZDUSD to give us and with this bearish engulfer, as you can see on the 4-hour chart on NZDUSD, we can expect further downside here, and we might see that initial drop on NZDUSD breaking any of this low and then to bounce back up to create a new higher high in this market. Now let's look at AUDUSD. Let's see what kind of trading opportunity we might have. Looking at monthly chart on AUDUSD, we can see that from the monthly, this is the monthly impulse here with a sharp bounce from the monthly with a long wick rejection on the monthly chart on AUDUSD, expecting for this price to remain bullish for long-term picture in this instrument. Now if we look at the weekly chart here on AUDUSD, we can see that with this weekly impulse back-to-back 3 weeks bullish move followed by long wick candle here, and with that weekly long wick, expecting for the price to break that low and then to revert back again to create a new higher high. Now dropping down to the daily chart here, we can see that from the daily, this is the daily bullish price action where the price was respecting this trend line here, respecting the support level here, and last day of trading week a doji formation. As this is a bull flag here on the daily, we can expect initially to break that low to grab liquidity for this potential bounce back to the upside in this instrument. Now looking at 4-hour chart here on AUDUSD, we can see that from the 4-hour perspective, here is doji formation, and with the doji expecting AUDUSD to break that low and then to grab the liquidity to potentially to give us further bullish trading opportunity in this instrument on AUDUSD. Now let's look at dollar CAD. Let's see what kind of trading opportunity we have. Looking at monthly chart on dollar CAD, we can see that from the monthly, this is the monthly price action where this is the third month the market is still bearish, and we might see further bearish drop on dollar CAD to create a new lower low in this market. And if we look at the weekly chart here, we can see that back to back quite a few weeks bearish, and starting with this long wick bearish candle here with this head and shoulder formation on dollar CAD, we can expect for the market to remain bearish for long-term picture on dollar CAD and creating series of lower high here on dollar CAD. Last week we saw a doji formation where the market is still maintaining that bearish move, expecting for the price to respect that high and then to potentially drop back down to that support level. Now if we look at the daily chart here, we can see that from the daily the market was in a strong bearish move. From here a big drop, and every day the price was forming series of lower high, followed by last 2 days we saw narrow red candle formation here, and the price is still maintaining that series of lower high. We could see that initially another bounce here to grab liquidity, and then to potentially we could see that bearish drop here as the market trend is still remaining bearish, and we might see the long-term picture to come back here to this support level. Now from the intraday perspective here, we can see the price was respecting this high, consolidating in that area, expecting for this price to move further, liquidity grab for this on this zone for long-term picture. As we can see, it's a downtrend and it's in a sideways movement. I think that the price might try to grab liquidity here for further a momentum gain. As there's a news coming up, we could see the dollar CAD retesting that level and potentially dropping down along with DXY. Now let's look at dollar Swiss franc. Let's see what kind of trading opportunity we might have. Looking at monthly on dollar Swiss franc, we can see that this market is also bearish. Back to back 3 months dollar Swiss franc showing that bearish price action. Currently the market below this support level here on dollar Swiss franc, expecting for the price to potentially break low further and to create a new lower low. Now if we look at the weekly chart here on dollar Swiss franc, we can see that from the weekly, this is where there is a weekly drop followed by this pullback, and this is a smooth downtrend ending market structure on dollar Swiss franc, and expecting for the price to remain bearish for long-term picture. And last week we saw a bearish price action here, and with that bearish price action we could see the market to retest and then to remain bearish in that direction. Now looking at daily chart here on dollar Swiss franc, we can see that from the daily, this is where there is a daily doji formation, and with the daily doji we could see the market to retest the daily 20 EMA, and this is where also this support here turning resistance, a very important area of value, and we might see the price to go up, retest, and then to trend back down to create a new lower low. Now from the intraday 4-hour chart here, we can see the dollar Swiss franc is locally bullish. Starting from here we can see that move followed by this pullback, and the market is still maintaining here local bullish market structure, and with that bull market we could see that the price to retest the swing high, swing low here, which is the support turning resistance here, expecting dollar Swiss franc to go ahead retest and then to potentially revert back to the major direction of that trend. And this is where we could see dollar Swiss franc to give us potential trading opportunity. Now let's look at XAUUSD. Let's see what kind of trading opportunity gold have this week. Looking at monthly chart, where you can see that from the monthly, XAUUSD is a long-term bull market here. Starting from here, we can see that there is a strong impulse on the monthly, followed by there is a pullback, and we can see another impulse, deeper pullback. It is in another impulsive phase. Now this month so far, if we closely look at, we can see that it's a bull market, and we saw there is a long wick has created at the top, and any pullback is where we might see later this week, at the end of the week or in the beginning of the new month, we might see the price to resume uptrend here. So we might see that in the beginning of the week. What I think that here for deeper pullback, as there is a long wick rejection here, the price, the sellers could try to sell off here as the price rejected from this all-time high. We might see for the price to drop further before it bounce back up again. Now if we look at the weekly chart, here is what you can see that from the weekly, there is a weekly doji formation, which is still maintaining that weekly series of higher low. And as the market has formed a doji here, what I think that the price may try to break this series of lower high. That means that the current weekly low, and what I think after break of this low, you could see that the market to return back again in the major direction of the trend. So this week we might see either initially go up and then to break that weekly low before it return back up again in the major direction of the trend, or initially we might see a drop, break of this low, and then to return back again to the major direction of the trend. Now looking at daily chart, here is what we can see. The market is in a sideways. We can see there is a long-term uptrend here, starting from here, a big move followed by narrow triangular pattern formation on the there is a narrow daily candle followed by a narrow daily doji, and we can see a couple of narrower daily candle formation and with a rejection from the top here to the support level. Now this daily candlestick pattern here, what we can see for the price to potentially what I think it may try to retest here at the top first. As we can see from the daily, there is a rejection here. So as the market was moving to the upside at the end of the week, we might see that flow remaining, and that's where you could see the price to grab liquidity from here. And at the same time, we can see here is series of higher low formation. So if we look at the 4-hour chart to see what kind of price action we might see this week, this is the 4-hour move. Here the price tested this support but couldn't create a new lower low. Here we can see that higher low formation. So we can see double bottom with a higher low, and at the same time double top with a higher high. That means that here the market is creating a higher high. Therefore we could see for this price to go back up here to maintain that structure, and that's where we might see that the price to go ahead, retest, and then to range bound throughout the week with the NFP before it break and bounce back up. So this could be the potential zone here. We might see the goal to retest before it drop down. So therefore in the beginning of the week we might see that upside bias here and lower time frame. If we look at here, there is an inverted head and shoulder. So this is initial plan for us to go for potential bullish entry opportunity on XAUUSD to retest and then to potentially drop back down here for this long-term movement in this market. So this could be the upcoming week, the range for XAUUSD. And what I think that with the monthly new monthly candle open, if we see the price has broken that low from here, we may see the long-term trend move, or we could see that a bit of range bound market for the upcoming week and as well as with the NFP week. So this could be the zone that we might be able to look for potential entry, take profit target, as well as support and resistance trading strategy from this level. As soon as we will find suitable entry, we will be looking for going long here with a high probability trade setup. So now let's look at yen pairs to see what kind of trading opportunity we have. Looking at GBPJPY, looking at monthly chart to see overall picture in this market. Now looking at monthly chart on GJ, we can see that there was a big drop here on the monthly, followed by the price had a sharp rejection from this monthly support level in this long-term historical bull market. As the market has got a bounce here, but I think the price before the monthly close, we might see the bulls try to retest this monthly resistance line. As there is a sharp rejection, we could see a potential trend continuation here. Now if we look at the weekly chart, as there is yen news coming up this week, we might see this instrument as well as dollar yen getting volatile, and this is the weekly candlestick pattern with back-to-back 2 weekly doji. And from this support level from the weekly on GBPJPY, expecting for the price to potentially remain bullish here to create a new higher high. And also what we can see here, there is a sharp smooth trend line, and we might see the price to come back here to retest this trend line. Now looking at daily chart here on GBPJPY, we can see that from the daily, this is where there is a long week rejection on the daily chart here on GJ, and as there is a daily doji, expecting for this price to potentially to remain bullish for long-term perspective. Now looking at 4-hour chart here on GJ, we can see that from the 4-hour chart here, this is where there is an inverted head and shoulder and an uptrending market structure has formed, and it is still maintaining that bullish market structure. Any pullback to the downside is where you could see that GJ giving us potential bullish trading opportunity, and this could be the wave for the upcoming week on GBPJPY. Now let's look at dollar yen. Let's see what kind of trading opportunity we may have in this instrument. Looking at monthly chart on dollar yen, we can see that from the monthly, the price has tested this support here on dollar yen, and we can see the weakness on dollar, and still we could see a movement on dollar yen, as this is an important support here. This is the monthly candlestick pattern. So far we can see there is a rejection from the monthly, and if we look at the weekly chart here, we can see that from the weekly perspective, this is a sharp downtrend here, and this past week we saw that there was a sharp rejection here, and the price has reached that weekly resistance line, and with that weekly resistance, this week we might see the price to go ahead, grab the liquidity, and then to return back again to the direction of the trend. Now if we look at the daily chart here on dollar yen, we can see that from the daily there is an inverted head and shoulder, but still we can see that it's a sharp downtrend here, expecting dollar yen for the price to potentially move back up further where there is a liquidity, and then to return again in the direction of the trend. Now looking at 4-hour chart here on dollar yen, we can see that the market is still maintaining here local bullish market structure, and at the same time the price approaching that swing high here. So as we see that there could be weakness on DXY, what I think the dollar yen, initially we could see that it might require deeper liquidity grab and then to revert back again in the major direction of the trend. So this could be the wave for the upcoming week on dollar yen. This is the resistance line. Once we see the price has reversed, we can look for potential selling opportunity in this instrument. Traders, I hope that you enjoyed this weekly forex forecast. If you enjoyed, make sure you give a thumbs up and also join the Telegram channel. You can find link below this video for more updated education as well as analysis that I am posting every day. Thank you, and I'll see you soon in my next analysis.